Hello and welcome to NexTalks. I'm Nex, and this is where I talk. Today I'm going to be talking about dating and romantic relationships. So shout out to Jacob from one of my live streams for requesting this podcast episode because, to be honest, when I was putting this together, a lot of imposter syndrome came up for me because I have a lot of history and I've been single now, mostly single, for about a year. So some imposter syndrome was coming up, but the reality is that I have a lot of information about this subject, not just from personal experience, but because I love to study this in my free time. It's something I've been really passionate about. It's been a powerful motivator for me throughout my life, and so much of this information is valid, useful, and relevant for anyone, regardless of whether you agree with me and my personal choices, my lifestyle, and my preferences. So that's where I'm going to start. I've actually received quite a bit of hatred from people in my community because of my decisions around dating. So I figure if I can give you guys some of my history and my background, maybe it can just give you a little bit more perspective, a bigger picture view, and not such a narrow-minded, single-focused perception of me. I grew up with a single mom. I didn't meet my dad until I was 19, so I have stereotypical daddy issues. And I don't remember a time in my life where I wasn't boy crazy. I remember having crushes on boys as early as elementary school, sometimes multiple at once, but not always. And my first kiss was about 5 years old with one of my mom's friend's sons, which wasn't anything serious. I think it was more like to see our mom's reactions because they thought it was the funniest, cutest thing ever, and we were just kind of doing it for attention, and there wasn't really anything like inappropriate or romantic about it. It was very experimental, just kids being kids, I suppose. So outside of these benign, childish crushes that I had throughout school, my first, I guess you could say, legitimate boyfriend and my first experience with romantic relationships was when I was 13. And this was my first real kiss, you could say. And this was a very toxic relationship. He was a prolific liar and a cheater. He even managed to date me and another girl with the same name as me at the same time for, I think, quite a while. So thus began my experience with romantic relationships. Cue the trust issues, insecurities, and issues around jealousy. I lost my virginity at the age of 17 to a guy who also proceeded to cheat on me, and then rebounded straight from that news into the most toxic relationship of my life. This guy's picture is in the dictionary next to gaslighting. He would have conversations with other girls right next to me, lie and make up elaborate stories about who they were, full backgrounds that were completely made up, all the while calling me crazy for questioning him and being suspicious. Luckily, my strong, independent mother had taught me not to be victimized and to push and trust my gut. So I was always able, well, I think always, there may have been times he got away with it, but at least multiple different times I would reach the truth and realize that he was lying. This actually happened 2 Christmas Eves in a row. And that relationship was on and off for about 3 very long years. Then, at the age of 20, I finally met a genuinely nice guy. What happened here is that I overlooked incompatibilities between us and our desired lifestyles and our personalities because he was faithful. I could trust him, and he trusted me. That's all I wanted at that point. I ignored the advice of multiple wise adults, including my late great aunt, warning me that our incompatibilities would eventually become serious issues. I was in love. About 3 years later, we were married. 4 years after that, I began to realize our incompatibilities. I should have ended things when he refused to try couples therapy, but instead, I allowed my friendship with another married man to deepen to the point of love. We were compatible in all the ways that we weren't with our spouses. You probably know how this one ends, but we both ended up cheating for the first and hopefully last times in our lives. 1 month later, I left my husband, moved to Florida, and ultimately called off the affair. About 4 or 5 months after that, my former lover divorced his wife and moved me in with him in New Jersey. And we stayed together quite happily for 4 years. It ultimately ended upon my extremely overdue realization that I am polyamorous. This just means I can love multiple people simultaneously. And if you want an episode about ethical non-monogamy, just let me know, either in the comments or reach out to me on social media. I'm not really planning to go into that too much on this episode. That was about 1 year ago, and I have been mostly single ever since. Now, despite my challenges and my shortcomings in my previous relationships, I have experienced over a decade of beautiful love in my life from some really amazing people. I'm no expert, and as with everything on this podcast, I welcome you to take what I say, take my thoughts with a grain of salt. But this episode was a special request, and I am more than happy to oblige. If you don't like it, blame Jacob. And I think the reason Jacob asked me to do this episode is because he was looking for advice for single people. So the rest of this episode is going to deal with my thoughts and some things that I think can be helpful, whether you're single or not, but especially if you're either single or maybe struggling with your existing relationship or relationships. My first tip is self-awareness. As with everything, I think awareness is the first step. So much of our focus is on other people when it comes to dating and relationships. We think about what do we want? What's our type? What are we looking for? What do they need to bring to the table? But so many people don't even know what they bring to the table. They don't even really know themselves. They don't know some of the most important information to know when it comes to relationships and having a healthy, successful relationship. It is really difficult to overstate the importance of knowing yourself before you enter a relationship with someone else. We're always learning more about ourselves, but there are some really key pieces to know about yourself before you get into a relationship that is going to be massively helpful in identifying a suitable, compatible partner for yourself, as well as being able to communicate clearly what you are or what you're like, what your preferences are, what your expectations are, what your boundaries are. And healthy communication is something that virtually all couples agree is a vital ingredient for a successful long-term relationship. Hell, I mean, it's good for all relationships, not just romantic ones. So one thing I think it's important to know about is your attachment style. So you can find this out online. There's also a book called Attached, which is how I found out mine. It has a little quiz in there, but whatever works for you, online is probably the easiest resource. Just look up what's my attachment style. I went in more in depth to the different types of attachment styles on the episode called Letting Go Part 2. So if you want to go check that out, I'm not going to dive in too much to attachment styles right now, but there are secure, anxious, and avoidant. Then the next thing to learn is your love languages, which you can also learn online. The number 5, lovelanguages.com. This is designed by Gary Chapman. It's a pretty well-known tool. You'll see it on a lot of dating profiles even. So learn that. What are your love languages? What are the ways that you most easily express love and the ways that you most easily receive love? Meaning, like, what does your partner need to do to make you feel loved? Because if your love languages are mismatched, you can still have a good relationship, but it's just going to take a little bit more work to make sure those love tanks are staying full. That's the metaphor from the 5 love languages, is like a gas tank. When your love tank is full, you're feeling loved, you're feeling secure, you're feeling relaxed. And when it's running low, you're going to be more likely to have these anxious or avoidant type reactions. The next thing to get clear on is what it is that you're looking for. What are non-negotiables for you? Like, what must this person absolutely have as a trait about them? Or what must they absolutely be willing to do for you or with you? And what are you completely unwilling to accept under any circumstances? So what are your expectations and what are your boundaries? And there's preferences, there's things that could be nice, but figure out especially these non-negotiables, because if any of these are not met, then, nobody likes to waste their time, money, and energy on something that isn't going anywhere. And it can be really painful if you allow yourself or allow someone else to get really attached and then ultimately just to find out that there's no future here. The same is true for your ideal lifestyle. Do you like to travel? Do you like hosting people over at your house? Do you like a lot of quiet time and alone time? What activities do you like to do in your free time? Again, you're looking for compatibility with this person. So once you've done this soul searching and you know what you're looking for and you know these different things about yourself that you bring to the table, communicate these to potential partners early on. Because like I said, no one likes to feel like they wasted their time and energy. And nobody likes getting blindsided after developing a strong connection or attachment to someone. So be open, honest, and direct up front. This ties into this same category because we're talking about communication. So that's how you're going to communicate your side of things, but also practice listening. Communication is a two-way street. So yeah, we spent a lot of time getting to know ourselves, but the other person is important. So practice asking questions and then listening. Zip your lips. One of the strategies I think is really powerful is to count silently to 3 in your head before you jump back in. Let the person finish. By allowing these 3 little seconds of silence, you make sure that they didn't just take a breath. They're not just pausing to think of the next thing they're going to say. They're actually finished. They'll often usually look at you and you'll be able to tell that they're done, and then you can respond. Or even better, just ask another question and get them talking again, because not everyone that you are dating is going to have done this same work. So their communication skills and their knowledge of themselves might not be at the same level that you're at, but in my opinion, that's okay. These things aren't usually deal breakers. Most people are willing to learn more and to get better and develop themselves. So by asking the right questions and practicing active listening, you're going to get the information that you need to determine compatibility between you. If you feel like you don't know what questions to ask, there are a lot of resources for this. So there are books that are just full lists of questions to ask before you get engaged or before you get married or when you're dating somebody. You can look up online questions to ask during a date. And there's even little card games. They're not really games, but they're like little card question prompts that you guys could do together on a date night to get to know each other better. And this helps to keep the conversation flowing as well. So you can start with kind of like surface level, easy, fun ones to begin with. And then after you've been dating for a little while, you can get into a little bit more deep conversations and start asking these questions that really come down to your non-negotiables. Okay, my next tip is to continuously work on being the best partner you can be. Take care of your health and your hygiene. Keep your finances in order. Keep your brain and body active. This is key to attracting and keeping quality mates. So if you want an attractive mate and you put 0 effort into your own appearance, what are the chances you think you're going to attract an attractive person? And then my last bit of advice here is to focus on it. Relationships take time. They take energy and attention. And I know this might seem obvious, but I'm surprised by how many people I find who seem to be unhappily single, but putting no effort into meeting anyone or trying to find anyone. Like just assuming that they're going to meet them through playing a video game online. It's like, yeah, you might meet some cool people online, but what's the chances that they live near you and that they're going to be a compatible mate to you, or that they're going to be physically attracted to you or physically attractive for your preferences? So you need to get out there on the dating sites, the dating apps, going to events for singles, at least going out and doing activities with other people where you might actually meet someone. Go outside. You can't just stay home and watch my awesome live streams all day and expect to meet a beautiful, amazing partner. You have to put the effort in, because we can make time for the things that are truly important to us. So if it's really important to you, prove it. Make time for it. Put the energy in, even if it's annoying and you don't like having to weed through all of the people that you don't like, or you have a hard time matching people. Just keep working at it, because you're not going to make progress if you don't put any effort in. So hopefully you found this helpful. I tried to cover a lot of different information here. And if there's something specific that you feel like you're having a hard time with, or specific kind of tips or advice that you want from me, please let me know. You can comment here, or you can reach out to me on social media. And if you did like this episode, please consider supporting me on my website. The link is included with this episode. And thank you so much for listening to this episode of NexTalks. I'm Nex. I talked. I hope you liked it. See you next time.